Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through. Just an old sweet song.
Ladies and gentlemen, another special edition of the Herschel Talkers. This would be the G-Day edition. It's been a couple of weeks since we had one. Didn't really have too much to talk about the last couple of weeks, but we just had G-Day, and we'll talk about that. So we got Big Sean on the phone. How are we doing today?
Doing great. I hope the listeners and you are, Trey.
Doing good. We got Sean is actually at the airport in Jacksonville, Florida.
That's right, enemy country, folks.
Exactly, and we also know not really a big fan of Jacksonville, Florida. Neither is Sean, but there is only one good thing about there, which is
Georgia, Florida.
And what is it called these days?
So I don't know what
the Red River Shootout, but we'll never say that. It's the world's the largest
outdoor cocktail party.
Exactly. Well, it'll always be known. And we've lost.
Well, see, I thought it was like the Red River Shootout's Texas, Oklahoma. I thought they gave some other PC name to the.
What the River City Showdown or some crap? Yeah.
Oh, the River City Showdown. Yeah, that's stupid.
That was it.
Let's just call it what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, so G-Day was this past weekend. I actually made the trip and was there in person. Had Mama Tucker there, my mom, and my two nephews were there. Great trip. Got a little warm there in the 80s. So pretty good crowd. I think the crowd ended up being over 66,133. Still a good turnout. Good.
Yeah, great turnout.
Yeah, second largest of all time in G-Day history, which is great. Pretty good vibe there, pretty good feeling. No big time halftime show or anything. I think that after semi debacle last year with Ludacris, they kind of went conservative route and just did. I think it was like some punt, pass, and kick stuff. Had David Green go against DJ Shockley, throwing the ball a little bit just for charity. So they went pretty safe that way.
Yeah, I'd agree.
We'll jump right into it. The red team defeated the black team 25-22. Quarterback for the red team was Jake Fromm and Jacob Eason. We'll looking at that comparison. Jacob Eason ended up finishing up 16 of 36 for 311 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had one pick, kind of threw into coverage. And then Jake Fromm, who I thought looked great, was 14 of 23 for 277, 2 touchdowns. To me, I stayed till late in the third quarter. Eason had a really good fourth quarter, but from what I saw, I was definitely frustrated in the first half. Him going 8 of 21, kind of overthrowing some guys, didn't have any accuracy. But Sean was watching on, I believe it was SEC Network. So I was going to get, what were your thoughts on the quarterback?
I kind of think my concerns and I guess my sentiments really echo yours, and that I think that Jacob Eason that first half, really I'd say probably up through the fourth quarter, not good at all, and really a lot less impressive than he was in the G-Day game last year, where it looked like he had his stuff together. Looks like he was able to make all the throws. And some of that may have to do with the fact that I believe he was going against the first team offense. Or I should say, he was going up against the ones on defense. The secondary played great. They made some great plays in pass coverage and broke up some stuff. The defensive line didn't really give up much in the way of running yards, and he really had no receivers to speak of. I mean, they were pretty much blanked or pocketed.
Yep.
There were some plays where it seemed kind of apparent that he wasn't on the same page with his receivers, Stanley and Chigbu, where he would either throw it late or he would throw it early where they didn't have their hands up in time. His moneymaker, as it was last year, is still the deep ball. He's got one of the best touches on it in the game. And just, can kind of make a throw that really probably nobody else in college football can with that deep ball. It's the underneath stuff and the throws over the middle, which, still give you concern. I mean, again, I think I kind of used the analogy with you earlier that it's almost like playing cornhole, where it's kind of lob it into space and hope for the best.
Yeah.
some of it could be play calling as well. We don't really seem to get the ball to guys in open space and give them lanes to run. With Fromm's standpoint, I also think Fromm had a lot better, wide receivers to deal with. Obviously, Holloman, he may be a true freshman, but that kid was definitely, I think, better than any of the ones that Eason had to throw to. Miko Hardman played fantastic as well, though it took him some time to kind of get, warmed up. He really abused the freshman safety Gibbs in the fourth quarter. It just seemed like, Fromm was, Fromm played great. I mean, again, I'm not trying to sit here and make excuses for Eason. There's probably there's probably plenty of blame to go around. I mean, defense made some plays. He didn't make some plays that he could have. The receivers didn't make some plays they could have. And some of it's probably play calling. But, Fromm really showed a lot of poise and moxie. Obviously you do have to take that with a grain of salt because, again, Eason looked fantastic in the spring game last year. Really looked great at times last year as well. But, you kind of had inconsistent play during the season. So you do have to obviously, you can't ever presume that this is just, that Fromm's going to be a world beater and you're going to see the same thing, once the actual season starts. And the other thing, too, is I think one trend we've seen with Eason is that he seems to kind of, I don't know if it's that he's in a rut or he's a very average quarterback to below average quarterback the first couple quarters of the game, and then he just kind of catches fire in that fourth quarter. He led us to several, come from behind wins last year. So for whatever reason, that's kind of when he gets his juice together and just kind of finds it. It's almost like a David Wells in baseball, or even maybe an Eli Manning is kind of a good comparison, where you have a guy that's very average until you get to big game moments, and then he just kind of finds another gear.
Yeah, he's definitely clutch. He's definitely a guy. You got to go get one or get a field goal with 2 minutes or a minute left. You definitely feel confident. With Jake Fromm, what I saw is he had a great. He's got, like I said, got to get swag with him, but he was able to. I think he's ahead of Eason, where Eason was last year as a true freshman, able to set up plays, run the offense, call them. And you can kind of tell that there was a different emotion with everybody out there. He's a real big student of the game, kind of a film nut, which is great. And I think he's definitely in the playbook. So he's ahead on Eason night in. He can make the throws. He reminds me of Aaron Murray, wearing number 11. He's about 2 inches taller. So I feel really good. Is it God forbid if something happened to Jacob Eason that there was an injury. Well, I don't feel bad about Fromm coming in off the bench. You got to look at it long term. Let's say if there was a couple of bad losses and Eason struggling in that third game or second game with 3 picks, maybe like a pick 6 in the first half. Do you pull him? I know he is a true freshman. And this kid isn't going away. I mean, there's no reason why he came to Georgia because, Eason's sophomore this year. And let's say if he has an average year, Chaney just doesn't, push him or he doesn't evolve, that, I think there could be a battle going in, next year for his junior year and from sophomore year. So,
yeah, there could be. In the minimum, there might be a situation where potentially you have them both playing at some point. The catch-22 of it, though, is, again, I think Eason's best work is always in the fourth quarter. So, you pull him too early and, you're really kind of taking away a guy's bread and butter of when he tends to work the best. But, again, the flip side to that is that, you kind of like a guy that's, consistent throughout the game as well. That's part of being a great quarterback. With much ability comes great expectations. And, Eason's clearly got the $1 million arm and, the size to go with it. Mobility may not necessarily be the greatest, but, you don't necessarily need to be all that mobile either to be a great quarterback. And, he's going to get pushed by Fromm, and so it'll be interesting to see how things pan out. Hopefully Eason, Again, this really was just one scrimmage. I think we probably need to just treat it as such, and not presume that this is really reflective of how they played throughout spring ball. But hopefully it was just kind of one average scrimmage for Eason, and he'll continue to improve, or hopefully improve as we head into fall.
Yeah, looking forward. Let's say if he struggles maybe against that App State team the first week, we might be looking at some problems. But no one's gonna when the season starts, no one's really gonna remember. Hey, you won the spring game, 25-22. No one's gonna really remember that. But it just gives you speculation and debate throughout the summer. It gave you a little taste, and I'm sure they didn't throw the whole. They're very vanilla in the play calling. So I rewatched it fourth quarter. When I came back, I watched, I believe, the YouTube version you sent to me, so I felt a whole lot better watching that. But moving forward, we'll go ahead and knock out the running backs. Elijah Holyfield, I think he had 15 rushes, 41 yards, and a touchdown. You can definitely see his quickness was back. Harrion struggled, might have been against that first string defense. The defensive line's pretty good. Ledbetter was wreaking havoc. We'll go over the defense later. But, no really Chubb and Michelle. I mean, I think Chubb had one, little dump pass out of the backfield for, 17 yards. And I think Sony had one carry, which is smart because you know what you have, two great running backs. So I'm going to get your thoughts on I think that was one question about the offense was they didn't really run the ball well, I guess, per average, per carry. So I was going what did you think about the running backs?
They didn't Holyfield looked okay at times, but again, going against the ones, or he may have been going against the twos, which is why he may have struggled a little bit more. It didn't seem that Herring got as much going, but he was going against the ones, and again, I think that defensive line is definitely kind of the the strength of that defense along with the secondary. And so, you got an upper class lad in front seven, and you've got some good depth behind the ones as well. So, I mean, that's not necessarily to be unexpected either. Plus, we know that we've got issues on the offensive line. We've got some, promising young guys coming in, but they didn't play in the spring game either. I mean, they're not set to be on campus until June.
Yeah, and then no Roquan Smith, which is probably best tackler, and then no Trent Thompson, who's a beast. Hopefully he'll be back, his medical issues.
No, that's right. Well, and that's kind of something else that tells you something. Either the offensive line that played didn't have a very good day, or, that defense is going to be really good.
Yeah. Looking forward, I think you got to put this running back core, a stable of backs, probably one of the deepest in the nation. You got Chubb and Michelle, and you got Holyfield and got Harrion, and you got to throw this DeAndre Swift guy in here. Who do you maybe see coming out in the spring after Chubb and Michelle? Who do you think's your back coming out of there? You got to go with Holyfield maybe, or see your third string back maybe?
I mean, no, I think it's Harrion. I think Harrion started with the one, so I think he's clearly number 3 on the depth chart. Yeah. Holyfield's number 4, and then Swift will kind of compete for some time after that.
How do you think Swift compares to maybe after Chubb and Michelle compared to Holyfield? Harrion, you think he can come in right away? I know it's hard to tell, but he seems like a big back. What, 220, 230?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that big. He might be 210 or 220. When it's all said and done, I don't see him. I think he could come in and play right away if he had to. I think the potential's there. The yards after contact ability is there, but he's got 4 guys ahead of him on the depth chart that have been in the program and the system. So, he might not come in and play at all unless if you got some injuries, which obviously you hope you don't get.
Yeah, but we are deep there. God forbid anybody gets hurt. But yeah, running back's definitely loaded there. Looking over to the wide receivers, definitely it was great to see them. Had really great numbers. I think this is a question mark coming in from last year. We didn't really have a go-to player, but after this game, I think a lot of people felt good. Some of the stats were Terry Godwin, 5 catches for 130. Tyler Simmons, 5 receptions for 114 and a touchdown. He had a long one. I think that was pretty much one of those that kind of threw it up, and he went up and got it. He struggled earlier in the game. I think he had a fumble and some drops, but that was good to see. He had a good game. Javon Wims, 4 receptions for 96 yards. He was as advertised from JUCO. He struggled some last year, but I think he's going to be a go-to guy. J.J. Holloman, 3 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. I think everybody's really excited about him. And also, Jason Stanley caught a touchdown over in the end zone from.
Well, and don't forget about Hardman either.
Yeah.
He got 3 catches, 76 yards, and could have had a touchdown, but Fromm got rushed there, and I think threw off his back foot, just overthrew him a bit.
Yeah, I think he's going to be definitely your IMAC, Isaiah McKenzie replacement at slot. So, yeah, everybody's really excited on him, and he looks really quick on the kickoff.
And don't forget, the best returner from last year's squad, Riley Ridley, didn't even play in the game. So we definitely got really deep overnight.
Exactly, I agree. So, out of those wide receivers, who do you think maybe right now, from what you've seen, should be your starters? Maybe what is it? They usually start in like 2. Depends on different packages. Maybe 2 or 3. Who would you say is the top 3? Maybe.
To me, I think probably it's going to be some combination of Ridley, Wims, Godwin on the outside, and I think probably you get Hardman and Simmons in the slot. And then, you'll probably get Holloman in there as well. I think it's going to kind of be similar to the 2012 team where it was just kind of wide receiver by committee, where everybody had talent and had the ability to catch, but it's just kind of, who's hottest in practice and, which routes the quarterback seems to have the best chemistry with the wide receivers on. So.
Yeah, you got Matt, that we've talked about before, Matt Landers, Mark Webb coming in. So, I mean, they're just like it's loaded. I could maybe even see some guys transferring eventually. It's just because, you don't want to be 8th on the depth chart. I think Chigbu, good kid and everything's kind of been maybe a bust. I think you're kind of hyped about him coming in, but it seems like he just gets some drops or just kind of came through, and then Stanley had a touchdown.
Yeah, I think his problem really is 2 things. I don't think his hands aren't very good. He doesn't have. I'll say 3 things. He doesn't have very good chemistry with Eason, which is was obvious in the game on Saturday. Not very good hands, and I don't think he breaks away from contact or gets away from a defensive back particularly well to get into open space. I mean. And that's kind of where, I think there were 2, maybe the first 2 throws that Eason had that were, I think both went to Chigbu and were incompletions, and it was because, Chigbu really couldn't get himself separated from Malcolm Parrish. He's a great cornerback, very physical cornerback, but, that's kind of the caliber of player you're going to be going against in the SEC, and, if not better, and, if you can't do that, then, that's a problem for you.
Yeah, and then looking up, I guess he's tight end / wide receiver, but another guy they're always real high on that he got a good touchdown. I think it was kind of a bad tackle, but Charlie Warner got a 36-yard touchdown, and then you can tell they were trying to go to Isaac Nada. So I was going to get, what do you think maybe they do with Charlie Warner, trying to just get some packages on the goal line or just kind of sneak him in there? What do you think they might do with him?
Yeah, that's another one you forget about. I think that he's probably, it looked like they were lining him up a bit at wide receiver. And, I figure they'll probably try and, get him downfield. I think there's, you got to be blind not to realize that Eason loves throwing it downfield. That's certainly his best ball. So
yeah.
I think the more stuff you can get downfield to wide receivers, the better you're going to be.
Yeah. So, all kind of weapons. I think we feel really good coming out of the spring at wide receiver. That was a question mark coming from last year. Guess we'll go over to the defense. Some of the defensive stats that jumped out. Richard LeCount, true freshman, led with 9 tackles, which is impressive. Jawan Taylor might have been kind of quiet. He had 8 tackles. Jonathan Ledbetter, I believe, had 1.5 sacks and 4 tackles and some tackles for loss. And, I was going to see what, your thoughts. Anybody stood out on the defense, or what you think about the defense, which looked pretty good?
To me, the 2 units that stood out, I'm first going to give it to the secondary, especially the starting secondary. We just got done talking about Chigbu's problems, but, you got to give it to Parrish as well. He's kind of been a pleasant surprise from the minute he started playing for Georgia. And it's just gotten better every year. He's very physical, jams people up well, and disrupts timing. Aaron Davis, former walk-on, made a great diving deflection on a ball that was on a on an Eason throw.
Yeah.
Reed, who is Gibbs' cousin, our highly touted safety, enrolled early. He played great as well, in the starting spot.
Wasn't it Lee? Was it J.J. Lee or something? Was it a transfer? He had some tackles.
Yeah, he transferred. I think he was technically on campus last year, but just never really played a whole lot.
So yeah, he did really well.
Obviously you can't forget about the cornerback on the other side of Parrish, DeAndre Baker, big physical kid. Did get called once for pass interference or whatever, but he played great last year. I thought solidified the other side of the field, and when you look at the freshmen that stepped up and played some, I mean, the fact that LeCount's leading you in tackles, it may not necessarily be the best statement about a pass defense per se, but Tyler Simmons on one of those drops he had, LeCount just was coming for him here at Fed Steps, I think dropped it. There's just depth there, especially among the starters. If you kind of dominate the ones, and I'm not necessarily going to sit here and say that the ones that Eason had were the best wide receivers on the field that day. I don't think that's remotely the case, and can be remotely argued except for maybe the fourth quarter, where you kind of had Godwin finally step up and some other players. But that secondary played great. And I think the defensive line as well. Those guys they kind of dominated both the ones and the twos dominated against the run. Now, some of that might have to do with the fact that, of how bad the offensive line is. And again, our best tackles aren't even necessarily on campus yet. Or allegedly our best tackles aren't on campus yet. So, you do have to take that with a grain of salt, coupled with the fact that it is, again, one scrimmage, but they look dominant. And the fact, too, that, our best defensive lineman was out. Trent Thompson wasn't in, and arguably speaking, our best inside linebacker, Roquan Smith, wasn't in. Although you could probably argue it's 1A and 1B between him and Nachos Patrick. But still, this guy stepped up and dominated the line of scrimmage. So you got to give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah, another guy didn't play. I think he's been banged up, but they just sat him out. Dominic Sanders didn't play either, so he's going to be a starter. So he wasn't out there. Yeah, in transition to that, I think another question mark coming in. They continue to struggle is offensive line. We didn't really get any type of push. I believe Eason was sacked 2 or 3 times, so he's under distress. But from what you saw, or coming in, who do you think you're the starting 5? I know we got some guys coming in. Who do you think might be the starting 5?
Well, I think it's going to be at the tackle spot. It's going to be Thomas at left tackle and Isaiah Wilson at right. I think probably on the interior of that line, they have Gilliard at center, I guess, and it's going to be maybe either Patrick Allen, Ben Cleveland. At the guard spots, maybe Kinnerly or Kinley, whatever his name is, potentially as well. Maybe Torrey Johnson. Some combination of those guys, I think, are who your starters are going to be.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas, or do you think he might be a good backup? Is it Andrew Thomas? He was a tackle.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
that's right. Yes, I hope they improve on that because, if you struggle at offensive line, it's going to be a long year again. We'll just, you have to let Eason run around back there and air it out. But, hopefully with our running backs, we'll be able to do that. And next, a little bit on the special teams. Wild things, they call him. Rodrigo Blankenship was 4 of 6, struggled. I believe he missed, ended up being 2 field goals and an extra point. I think his kickoffs were pretty good. There was some touchbacks. And I think the punter, I forget his name, he had a funny last name, did pretty well. He had some where he kicked him inside the 10. But still think there's some question marks on the special teams. So,
Blankenship, I think he hit the crossbar or the right upright 3 times maybe or something like that.
That's right.
It was just kind of a disaster, I guess I'd say. But he was inconsistent last year as well. It's just, kind of about, him just getting hot again and doing his thing. I mean, he doesn't have the strongest leg in the world by any means, but
it's pretty accurate.
It seemed like as long as you get it to him within the 41 or so, he was all right.
Yeah. So So from how about this? We'll close it up with the G Day summary here. So A to F, your grade. What would you give G Day from what you saw?
What would I?
What would be the overall grade from what you saw, and maybe how you feel going into?
I'd say maybe a B- to a B. I mean, I guess theoretically, unless they all had a bad game, I mean that's probably about a bell curve or average. The quarterbacks, I think probably you give a B to a B plus. I mean, the thing is Eason had over 300 yards, but he had under 50% passing percentage. Fromm played great, but you still got the low passing percentage from Eason. The wide receivers, I think you give an A to. I mean, they were fantastic. Defensive line, you give an A to. Again, they played, or maybe an A- to B plus. They did have a couple penalties, but they played well. Running backs, you give like a C to a C- to, just because they really had no effect whatsoever on the game. Secondary, I think you could probably give them a B plus, A-. I mean, they played great at times in the first half, but they did get torched there in the fourth quarter. So you got to factor that in. Special teams was awful, or at least the place kicking and extra point stuff was, it's like a C- to a D plus maybe. Punting, it wasn't bad. But the thing is, it's not like there was kick returns either or punt returns, so that kind of negates each other. Tight ends, a C. Again, I don't really remember anybody. I guess technically we had Charlie Warner, assuming that he was playing at the tight end position. It wasn't just kind of in the slot or something like that, had a touchdown. But other than that, they didn't really seem to do much. So, on the whole, again, B, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I was going to say B- in there. I felt better after watching it actually on the YouTube video. So that's G Day is in the books. So if anybody gets bored during the summer, you can watch it on YouTube when everybody's a little football hungry in July or August when the days are long. Yeah, we'll transition in here and we're going to talk about recruiting, which I think we're in full for myself and I'm sure Sean too. We're in full blown panic mode. We'll go over some of this. I'm gonna call this the Georgia recruiting meltdown. So earlier in the weekend, Adam Anderson, outside linebacker, 4-star, who is one of the only two early commits for Georgia, is in a package deal, goes to LSU. So that was a little bit of a blow. Also, yesterday we lost another guy who is a heavy lean, Brendan Cox. He goes to Ohio State. He's a 4-star defensive end. Definitely could have used him. And then also DeAndre Demery with the off-the-field Waffle House choke out of the baby mama with the 2 kids. I know that's terrible. Really sad that domestic disturbance came, and I liked it that Kirby Smart went in and cut ties, didn't go into any kind of suspending 4 or 6 games. I just like it. Just go ahead and cut ties and wash his hands of it. Good luck to the kid, but he's got some stuff to work on. And as of right now, we only have a 3-star inside linebacker, Donovan George is the only one. And then they got number 1 kicker in the nation, Jake Carmardia, I think you pronounce his name, which, is a kicker. So not a great weekend recruiting-wise. I don't know if there's anything positive about all this, but I was going to get your thoughts on that and heading forward, Sean, on recruiting.
Well, I mean, do you have reason to be concerned? Obviously, yeah. I mean, the thing is, we started out, this recruiting cycle great. We had commitment for Mac, Randy 4-star. Now, all of a sudden, he decommitted it, opened things back up. And then losing, I believe last name was Anderson, who flipped to LSU. That hurts as well. But, and Brandon Cox, obviously, big loss there. But, nothing's technically signed yet either with these kids. I mean, there were plenty of kids that were committed to other programs that Kirby was able to flip last year. I mean, you can look at Bryce, who committed to LSU kind of out of left field and then ultimately ended up signing with Georgia, and then Trey Bishop as well. So, I think Brandon Cox comes from a big dog family. There's plenty of time still to get that one flipped. The Anderson thing, again, I just think that was, LSU offered 3 teammates, so it was kind of a triple package deal and kind of tough there. But that kind of is what it is. I mean, I think the thing is that we're still getting these kids on campus and we're still, getting visits. I mean, it may have been a little bit difficult right now, but, let's kind of keep faith in the process. Right now we're leading for Zamir White, who to me is probably the best overall player in this class.
Yeah.
The running back out of Scotland County, North Carolina. Slayer, who is probably going to play offensive tackle at the next level. I believe we're the leader for him and a couple of other offensive linemen. So, I mean, if we have one commitment, 2 commitments, something like that, going into August or September, yeah, be worried. But, it seems like we end up picking up a lot of Mo in summer and, pick up a lot of commitments then. So let's just kind of wait and see. I think the other good sign is, although it's not next year, but 2019, what do we have? 4 total commitments, 2 5-stars, 2 4-stars.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's frustrating or whatever, but let's just, it is only April. And I think we may have started out a little bit faster last year, without question. I think we even got LeCount like in December or something like that. But, let's just kind of wait and see. And, again, if we're still at 1 or maybe, 1 and a bunch of 3-stars come August, then yeah, maybe we start to worry some, especially if some of those 2019 guys slip and some of the 2018 kids continue to commit to other programs. But it's early, you just kind of have to wait and see. And, Kirby, he seems like he's in all these battles to the very end. And he's had some success flipping these kids as well. So just got to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think one thing is last year, they were showing, weak on the offensive line. They were able to sell that, weak at wide receiver, and I think we, fulfilled all these negatives. And I think that Georgia's maybe having problems selling depth. Like maybe you can't play right away, but you can come, be part of the team, play in the next couple of years. Do you think maybe trying to sell on the depth, because we're pretty depth, deep at a lot of positions? Do you think that's kind of a struggle that Alabama was able to do this year after year after year? You come and play for Alabama, and you might not get to play until sophomore or junior year, but maybe Georgia's struggling on. While with other teams, you can come in and play right away.
Yeah, without question. I think that the attraction Alabama offers, though, is that while Georgia's trying to get that national championship level, right now they're an 8-4 and 10-2 program. Now Alabama's made the the BCS playoffs, I believe, every year since it started. So I mean that's the very real possibility that if you're going to Bama, you're playing in that game and playing for a national championship off the bat is just something Georgia can't offer right now. So yeah, I mean I think that last year we had immediate playing time we could offer, and that we were quote unquote changing the culture and doing things different. Now you don't have that those same things necessarily to offer. I guess you can still say you're changing the culture, but unless the things really change this year, we don't go 8-4 again like we always seem to do. It's just you don't kind of have that newness factor that you could offer last year, coupled with the opportunity for immediate playing time.
Yeah, another thing that's kind of depressing is, this is according to Dog Nation, Jeff Santel. He always has great recruiting statistics. According to the Power 5 programs with the top 40 commits from Georgia in 2018, Florida State has 2, LSU has 2, Michigan has 2, Ohio State 2, Clemson 2, Alabama 1, Auburn 1, Notre Dame, Penn State with 1, and Georgia has 0 so far. So, a big emphasis last year was locking down the borders. So Kirby's struggling, getting that done. So But it does sound like, we do have a lot of irons in the fire. If we can get Zamir White, like you said, and Sawyer, and kind of build off that. And, of course, 10-2, maybe win the East would be great. So hopefully we'll head in the right direction. But as for this year, really excited about the season. And, as the weeks to come, we'll break down looking to the season. Yeah, one last thing I want to go over is throw a little stat out for you. So, top 10 spring game attendances. I was going to throw it out as a little question quiz for you. Who do you think it was, and give me some guesstimated numbers. So, out of the top 10, who do you think was number one, had the best spring attendance?
Alabama.
Close. Actually, Alabama was third with 74,326. And they're saying on here that this team, who was number one, I think was number one for 3 straight years. So I guess they must have had a crazy number last year because Georgia had 93 last year. So who do you think it is?
Michigan.
Michigan was 7th with 57,418. Actually, number one is Ohio State. They had over 80,000.
Wow.
Number 2 was Nebraska, 78,000, which, I don't know.
What else are you going to do in Nebraska?
About to say, feel like you want to take a nap before going to that. But number 3 was Alabama. Number 4 was Penn State, Little Happy Valley, 71,000. Georgia was number 5, 63,133. Clemson was right at 60,000. Michigan was 7, 57,000. Florida was right at 48,000. Auburn had 46,000, and Oklahoma 43,000. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I think South Carolina was right around 12.
12,000.
And I think Tennessee's was kind of small too, even though they did have some bad weather.
Yeah.
Did you? I was up in that. Have you got to see anything from any of the other spring games? I did hear Alabama's backup quarterback Tagovailoa, or his name is, looked really good, looked better than Hurts. But
I thought Alabama's whole offense looked really good, to be completely honest. I mean, I didn't think Steve Kasian really showed that it factor to me. I mean, people can say, it was kind of difficult to step in there for the national title game, but I mean, he had plenty of weapons, and freshman quarterback who'd been great all year, and was SEC Player of the Year, just looked lost. But they looked, explosive. Offense looked better, from what I saw than it did last year. So, Saban went and found him a new offensive coordinator. That guy can play, or call some plays, I should say.
Yeah, and I almost question is that defense going to take a step back?
I mean, yeah, it could be. I mean, they're still chalked with plenty of 5-stars, though. So.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And I think they brought their best defensive back as well with Minka Fitzpatrick, I guess it is. So, I mean, yeah, I think they're gonna be all right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so went over G-Day and the recruiting meltdown, and here we are in April. So it will be kind of a quiet, calm before the storm, as they say, over the summer. So, any other thoughts? Do you need to get anything off your chest? Anything you're looking forward to in the summer?
Well, no, I mean, again, it'll just be kind of interesting, I think, to just see how things progress. And really, again, I think the guys that are going to kind of make or break us next year are going to be, Isaiah Wilson and Xavier Thomas, how they come in and play. So, really, we're not going to really see much until we get into the season as far as that goes, unfortunately. But, other than that, just kind of watching how recruiting plays out this year.
Yeah, I agree. And then hopefully no off the field, no suspensions or anybody doing anything stupid. Georgia, infamous, during the summer, it's like, all right, these kids don't have anything to do. Let's go get in some trouble. So hopefully no DUIs, no smoking weed, marijuana, no
suspensions.
Yeah, no beating anybody up, no domestic. So let's hey, like Ma Tucker says, my mom says, you got to have 3 things to have a good season. Got to have no injuries, no suspensions, and have a little lady luck, to quote Larry Munson.
That's right.
All right. Well, I believe that's it. So, Sean, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Another great episode of the Herschel Talkers.
Yep, there we go.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, see ya.